My name is Eric Bankston, and I've been in business for over 25 plus years. I've worked in brand partnerships within the entertainment industry. I've worked with artists like Bad Bunny, Maluma, Daddy Yankee, Marc Anthony. But more importantly, I've worked with corporate brands, and I've closed over $100 million in brand partnership deals. By the end of this video, I'm gonna teach you how you too can close the same type of deals and earn 6 figures plus on your next partnership. Stay tuned. Most people don't realize that the deal is dead even before the meeting happens, because there's 2 things that really need to be in check. One is your energy, the vibe, the confidence in yourself, how you've prepared for the meeting. You see, companies are not buying what you're selling them. They're buying in you. And so if you walk into a room without the right energy, without the right vibe, and not confident and ill-prepared, that sets the tone for the rest of the conversation. And another thing to realize is that once you actually have a seat at the table, you have to understand that it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. Let that sink in, because there's 1,000 other companies that do exactly what you do. It's about how you do it and how you do it differently. How you compete in a saturated space, in a saturated market. What sets you apart is essentially what gets a deal done. Once you understand and you wholeheartedly believe in yourself and what you're offering, and you know that you're prepared. So yeah, a lot of these deals are sabotaged before they even walk into the room. I've never walked into a room not understanding who I'm sitting down with. I've never walked into a room, into a meeting, without doing my research and my homework to understanding the individual that I'm going to be sitting across from. Understanding my competitors, understanding the competitive landscape. And I've actually put together a strategy well in advance. That's a part of the preparation. That's a part of structure and the discipline and the organization that comes into being prepared to close the deal. How I go about business and how I do it has to be unique, has to be smart, has to be efficient. And I absolutely have to deliver on a need state and come up with solutions that drive and add value to any partnership. Let me tell you the wildest story about how I closed the Bad Bunny and Corona partnership. This story is not your average story. It starts off with a traditional brand partnership meeting and identifying the right artists for the brand that align with the brand. But I knew immediately it was going to be much more of a harder sell on both sides, whether it was us having to convince the brand that this was the right artist for them, or convincing the artist that this was the right brand for them. And so I had to do a little digging. I had to do a little research. I reached out to Noah Saad, Bad Bunny's manager, and we started talking about the brand. And I started to probe. I started to dig deeper. It couldn't just be, hey, look, here's a normal traditional presentation. Here's your standard pitch deck as to why you should partner with this artist. And as we had a conversation, he came back to me and said, listen, Eric, unfortunately, you're going to have to go personally, fly to Puerto Rico, find him, sit down with him and convince Bad Bunny that this was the right deal for him. And I said, well, how do I go about doing that? Where do we even find him? Where does he live? He says, listen, I'm going to give you his location. I'm going to drop his pin and nobody knows he's there. It's his secret little hideaway, his secret little beach location on the island. And you go there and you meet up with him and you talk to him. Explain to him the deal points, explain to him about what's happening, what's going on, and get his feedback. Just doing that wasn't going to be enough. I also had to convince the brand that Bad Bunny was a Corona drinker. He consumed the product. He was an advocate of the product. So what do? I fly out to Puerto Rico. I got the pin dropped on my phone, rented a car, and the first thing I did was go to the grocery store. I went to the grocery store and I bought a case of Corona. Actually, I bought about 10 cases of Corona. And then I went and searched for a cooler. I found this old antique cooler, this old antique Corona branded cooler. You know how hard it is to find the aluminum antique cooler just so I can get a money shot? I'm driving in Puerto Rico, going to Walmart, nothing but styrofoam. And I'm not gonna take a styrofoam to the beach. Aluminum gray cooler. Old, the antique ones. And I kept searching. There's this freaking little store on the way there, like a shack. And I go in the store, I said, damn, I gotta find something. And I go in the store and they have an antique cooler. They had an antique cooler in that little ass store. And I said, impossible. I said, this is meant to be. It's meant to be. I said, it's meant to be. They have the cooler, exact cooler that I'm looking for there. And I knew he would like it. I knew Bunny would like and think that that cooler is cool. And that's what, I was like, I need that cooler, whatever it costs. He's like, no, I'm not selling it. It's like for the store. I said, I need that cooler. I said, I'll even bring it back to you. And I ended up getting the cooler. Yeah, I'm going to the beach and bro, what it is to get a deal done, what it takes to get a deal done. The stars were aligned. The universe was working in my favor. And I put this case of Corona down there with limes and the whole nine. And I dressed it up really nice so it looked amazing. And then I realized like, this looks like an actual Corona commercial. We were on the beach, on the sand, and palm trees, and the sun was out, and the waves were crashing. And I said, no, I'm gonna take it a step further. I'm gonna actually capture this moment. I'm gonna capture this moment, and I'm gonna send this content to the SVP of Corona. And I see him coming down, and I see him, and he's like, ¿Qué es esto? And they open it and they're like, oh. And they're like this, and the sun's there, the beach is there, the water, the sand. It was beautiful. I almost cried. I was like, what the fuck? And I took that video and I sent it to Noah, his manager. I said, no, Noah didn't even know where he was. He goes, I got the intel from the guy, his name was the guy that was with him. And he sent Noah and he sent me the pin. We're here now. And I went to a secluded beach and I'm like, I don't know where it's at. It's a pin of the town. And I'm trying to find the beach with a cooler full of beer and ice. And I'm dragging that shit everywhere and I'm sweating, man. It was crazy. Finally found it. And he wasn't there on the beach. Nobody was on the beach yet. They're in this little house, and I could see them in that little house, and they're friends, and they're talking, laughing, But it's only, when he didn't want to talk business, he didn't want to talk business. So you couldn't talk to him. He wouldn't even talk to his manager. But the information leaked where he was from the that was with him. Oh, it's funny, man. And I got it finally, and he started drinking it, and they were like, oh, and they started putting music. They had a little speaker. They started putting music. It was like 4 guys and 3 girls. And so I'm like this, and I don't want to be seen. especially I'm known as the Corona guy. So he sees me as the Corona guy, Bunny, because we had spoken about the deal before. I don't want to talk right now. We're talking when I get back, but the deal had to get done like that weekend. Otherwise, it wasn't going to get done. That was what turned out to be the key factor in getting that deal closed. It wasn't just a pitch. It wasn't just another presentation. I had to get my ass on a plane, find out where this kid was, drive to the secluded beach, just utilizing a pen, and incognito sneak in and do the things without. And at the end of the day, I didn't want to disrespect him or interrupt his vibe or anything like that. But I knew this was my moment. If I was going to close this deal, I had to take it a step further. I had to go the extra mile. And if that took me hiding in bushes to get that content, I made it happen. I flew back to Chicago. The next day I had a meeting with the brand. So instead of me now going to them, trying to pitch them the artist, they were now coming to me and say, how do we get this deal done? We need to get this deal done. It became one of the most iconic partnerships. As you can imagine, it was almost a 7-figure deal. It turned in from a partnership of a tour to an endorsement deal where they did full-blown ads. They created spots for it. I mean, the deal went from what was almost not going to get closed to being one of the biggest brand partnership deals in land entertainment. It's a fun fact, and it's a true story. So if you're asking me how you too can do these type of things, how can you do this? How can you go out there and put yourself in these positions to create these opportunities for you? You just got to be relentless. You got to live with no fear of what others are going to perceive of you. I mean, if you think about it, I jumped on a plane and flew to Puerto Rico, hid in a bush, just to get that money shot. And the only reason I was able to accomplish that because I wasn't willing to accept no as an answer. I wasn't willing to accept no as your response. And even if you did tell me no, that wasn't going to prevent me from pursuing a partnership deal. That wasn't going to prevent me from doing business. That wasn't going to prevent me from doing something that I knew that I wholeheartedly believed in. And that was just in my nature. So that either you realize and you accept that you're gonna have to go the extra mile if you're gonna get this done, or you might just give up and don't even begin. But have the mindset and have that mind shift that nothing can stop you. And believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Even though I was nervous and scared, I had to find and muster up the courage to get out there and do something different. Get out there, make it happen for myself. And what came of that, when I was uncomfortable and I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? And I thought about it over and over and over again. I doubted myself. What are you doing, Eric? Like, this is a crazy idea. This is like, but I always had that vision. And if I had a vision and I understood something, I was gonna execute it. And yeah, I stayed the course. I went out there, executed the plan, and the plan ended up coming to fruition. Here's the payoff. It wasn't about the fact that I got sponsorship dollars. The payoff was when I'm in an arena and there's 20,000 people yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs. And I'm looking around like, wow. And I see the brand showing up in such a relevant way in front of thousands of people. And I see the integration, the authentic, genuine integration with the brand and the artist, and the artist on stage that is just captivating the audience. And then the brand moment happens on stage where he takes the bottle, he drinks it. That was the moment, that was the payoff. I said, okay, I understand it. I was a part of this cultural moment. And that meant so much for me because I knew that I was there from the beginning. I knew that I had to be there. And it took all those steps and all that effort to get it to that point. But it was absolutely worth it. And the money, well, the money, I mean, that was just the icing on the cake. But that's how we do things differently. We don't just settle, we get out there and we get after it. And anybody that's looking to close brand partnership deals, you better be willing to do whatever it takes to be relentless in your pursuit for success. It's as simple as that.